A man discovered something eerie while using the restroom. Despite the world having already ended, a group of strangers was approaching. Without hesitation, he turned and retreated to his camp. By the 10th year after doomsday, only a few thousand people remained on Earth. Now, a group wielding knives had appeared, signaling their malevolent intentions. Fear took over, causing him to stumble and fall. Upon closer inspection, these strangers were merely tens of meters away, closing in on the camp rapidly. A father had to act fast, kicking away a board and leading his family quickly out the back door. In a post-apocalyptic world with scarce resources, getting caught meant certain doom. With no other option, the father lifted the nearby toilet lid, pushing his son and daughter-in-law inside for safety. Turning around, he prepared to confront the outlaws himself. Within seconds, he was struck down by a brutal blow. Hidden below, the husband and wife trembled in fear, helplessly witnessing the father's death. But survival required silence. The group entered the camp, discovering a lost bag, one containing precious medicine. In a world where most people were infected, this medicine was vital. Now that it had been taken, the fate of an infected wife hung in the balance. The father's body was carried away, but as the group passed by the toilet, their leader hesitated. Something beneath a pile of sticks seemed suspicious. Quickly, a hand covered the wife's mouth. The leader crouched down, lifting the lid for a closer look. The stench made him gag, prompting him to move on. Only after the strangers were gone did the couple emerge, finding the campsite in ruins and all supplies looted. Survival had just become even more uncertain. The infected wife lay weak in bed. Desperate, her husband reached for the pillbox beside her, only to find it empty. Watching her writhe in pain, he hesitated, then picked up a pillow. Could he bring himself to do it? This was the woman he once loved. Overcome with emotion, he abandoned the thought. Instead, he left the last of their water for her, concealed the campsite, and embarked on a journey to reclaim the stolen medicine. Following the blood trail left by his father, he searched the wilderness. But with temperatures at 20 degrees C, wearing only a short-sleeved shirt and shorts, he collapsed from the cold. Drifting in and out of consciousness, he spotted a young boy in the distance. Seizing the chance, he silently followed. When the boy reached his home, he hurriedly shut the gate, hiding beside his grandfather. The traveler forced his way inside, but did no harm. Instead, he took warm clothes and resumed his pursuit of the strangers. Navigating through the frozen forest, he spotted fresh bloodstains leading to a heartbreaking discovery: his father's remains. With no time to grieve, he buried the body and pressed on, determined to retrieve the medicine before it was too late. Climbing a tall tree to scout the area, he spotted smoke in the distance. But as he focused, he slipped and fell. Before he could react, distant howls echoed, the sound of a wolf pack. Instinct kicked in. Fire was the only defense. Finding the stranger's abandoned campfire, he stoked the flames. As darkness fell, wild dogs emerged from the shadows. The fire kept them at bay just long enough for an escape. At dawn, a new lead surfaced, a blood trail flowing down a river. Following it led to a female hunter. Caution was necessary. Finding the camp was the priority. Trailing the hunter, he soon located their base. The stolen medicine had to be inside. But these people were careful, setting up alarm bells. A silent approach was crucial. Searching the camp revealed nothing. Medicine wasn't in the stolen bag. There was no choice but to dig deeper. But the hunter had spotted him. Acting fast, he knocked her out. Nearby, a camper van seemed promising. Frantically searching inside, he found himself running out of time. The group had returned. Quickly, he hid the hunter and erased signs of struggle. The strangers brought back a captured boy. Their leader, ever cautious, noticed something was off. A mirror had been moved. Suspicious, he ordered a search. Meanwhile, the intruder knew hiding wouldn't work forever. He covered the hunter with leaves and, while the group searched the forest, sneaked back into camp, but one infected guard remained. Timing had to be perfect. Waiting until the guard returned to the van, he freed the boy first. However, the frightened child mistook him for an enemy, screaming loudly. The noise lured the infected guard outside just as planned. Seizing the opportunity, he searched for the medicine, finding a locked box. It had to be inside, but breaking it open was impossible. Then the leader returned. Hiding under the camper van was the only option. Tea morning arrived and the camp was still asleep. This was the moment. Sneaking inside the van, he located the box's key. hanging around the leader's neck. With steady hands, he unlocked it. Inside, the stolen medicine. The mission was nearly complete. But as he turned to leave, disaster struck. A bell rang. The leader awoke instantly. A desperate chase ensued through the dense forest. The strangers were gaining, but using knowledge of the terrain, their pursuer was evaded. Running without stopping, he reached the old man and boy's shelter, only to find horror. Wild dog tracks covered the ground. Inside, a gruesome scene. Overwhelmed with despair, he collapsed, no longer caring if the strangers caught up. When consciousness returned, he was bound, thick smoke rising nearby. Death was imminent, but then hope a whistle lay on the ground. With quick thinking, he grabbed it and blew hard. The sound echoed through the forest. The strangers, confused, barely had time to react before wild dogs came charging. Panic erupted, sending them scattering. Using the chaos, he freed himself and hid under a tree. The group was now divided. Seizing the moment, he launched an ambush, taking out two of them. Only the leader remained. A brutal knife fight ensued. An arrow strike to the leader's thigh should have ended it, but the bowstring snapped. Now, only blades decided the outcome. Just as the struggle reached its peak, another howl interrupted them. Both were forced to flee. Through sheer will, the wounded survivor continued, stumbling upon an isolated cottage. Shelter and supplies were desperately needed, but inside, another grim discovery: the owner had long since perished. A brief search revealed a weapon, but before it could be secured, a noise behind signaled danger. The leader had caught up. The final battle began. Aimed at the leader, the weapon failed. It was out of ammo. A brutal hand-to-hand fight broke out. At the same time, back at the camp, the infected wife woke to the sound of approaching wild dogs. Alone and vulnerable, she braced for the worst. Meanwhile, the fight reached its climax. Pinned to the ground, a final surge of strength allowed one last counterattack. Victory was secured, but at what cost? With no time to waste, the journey home began. Exhausted and bleeding, steps quickened upon nearing the campsite. But something was wrong. The gate stood wide open. Inside, no sign of the wife. Had all of this been for nothing? Collapsing to the ground in disbelief, exhaustion overtook him. As the film reached its conclusion, an air of mystery lingered.